News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update. Brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. A commercial airline flight from London to Los Angeles diverted to the Salt Lake City International Airport Tuesday evening. Virgin Atlantic Flight 141 landed in Salt Lake City around 4 p.m., and the unruly passenger was taken into custody, according to airport officials. Emergency crews surrounded the plane on the southwest de-icing pad at the airport for a few hours. The plane was refueled and resumed its trip to Los Angeles around 7:30 p.m. Salt Lake City Police released a statement that read, at approximately 4:30 p.m., Airport Division Police were called to respond to a Virgin Atlantic flight that was diverted into Salt Lake City due to an unruly passenger on board a flight who had been physically detained by other passengers and flight crew members. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies, overnight low in the upper 50s. And then tomorrow, sunny, hot, mid-90s for the high. It is 91 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Contact their Cache Valley team to protect what's yours at northernsteelbuilding.com. Value from concept to construction. Call 435-677-7300.
My name is Dr. Brandon Prevey, and I love being a dentist. I work with Drs. Curtis Taylor, Anthony Larson, and Paul Harris. When people ask where our office is, I actually have two answers. First, I spend part of the week at Logan Dental Associates, and then second, I spend the other part at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Both locations are a full-service dental office and can take care of everyone in the family. Call or go online and make your appointment with the offices most convenient for you. Logan Dental Associates in Logan or Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond.
KBNU News Time is 4:07. Logan has long been associated with the arts, and the city is launching a granting program for local artists to get murals up in various places around the downtown area, throughout parks, and the city at large. Heading this up is a team of people, including Community Improvement Manager for Logan City, Aaron Smith. On KBNU's For the People program last week, Smith said it's an exciting time for the city and local artists.
It is an exciting time for arts in Logan with the kind of getting a public art program rolling. Yeah, we've had some initial projects that have got underway, and we have heard from local artists who have been calling saying, how can I get involved and what's coming up? So it's been great to hear from them and to hopefully get them involved in projects coming up.
Smith said this is about placemaking, described as a people-centered approach to planning, design, and management in public spaces.
So we just wrapped up our Art in the Park program, and that focused on Merlin Olsen and the soccer park, and really we were trying to get art where folks are at. And you know, when they're going down to kick a soccer ball, there's also a mural. And when you're riding your bike through the tunnel at Merlin Olsen Park, there's a mural, and just sort of areas that may not be as the nexus of downtown, but you know, out in the community as well.
Utah Arts and Museums is providing funding for the project in addition to the state of Utah. Artists who are interested can visit the City of Logan government on Facebook. Entry deadline has been extended to midnight on Thursday, July 28th. Utahns have been paying more for gas than people in neighboring Rocky Mountain cities like Denver and Cheyenne, Wyoming. In fact, Utah drivers pay more for gas right now than most drivers in the West, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. According to Gas Buddy, Tuesday gas in Utah was $4.89 per gallon. On the same day in Denver, it was $4.51 per gallon and $4.31 per gallon in Cheyenne. Mark LaCour, editor-in-chief of the Oil and Gas Global Network podcast, said it's hard to get answers about gas prices because it's a complicated topic that few people understand. LaCour has worked in oil and gas and often speaks to people in the industry during his podcast. In Utah, the governor's Office of Energy Development reports 18.4 cents on every gallon of gas goes to federal tax, and 31.9 cents per gallon is state tax. But LaCour said the big reason why Utahns pay more for gas is because of geography. He told KUTV that Utah has a physical constraint because we're basically landlocked. Utah, Arizona, Nevada all have the same problem, while many states like Texas have infrastructure that allows super tanker ships carrying crude oil from other countries to deliver it to a port. Utah has no access to water. Utah has oil delivered via pipeline, which is much more expensive as a delivery system. LaCour said the pricing gets even more complicated and obscure when you consider that crude oil is sold several times before it ever gets to the refinery and the pump. Another factor that affects recent prices is the pandemic. When people stopped flying and driving, refineries shut down or slowed production, and it's not easy to restart. He expects prices to remain high until 2024 when the refining capacity around the world is up to speed again. KVNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Where you find out. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the second year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online, advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, they can work with you to help ensure you're prepared for the future. After all, retirement isn't the end of the road, it's a new beginning. Call one of the 7 branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This message is for Karina, our mom who finished her high school diploma at age 28. Hi, Mom. It's Emmettith and Nicholas.
Congratulations on getting your diploma.
You worked so hard and have taught us so much. We love you.
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for them. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Wednesday, July 27th. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope you'll stay tuned. We have a lot coming up on the show today. Lacey Jimenez from Create Better Health, a program at Utah State University, will be joining us later on in the show. They made a cookbook. That alone would be fun to talk about, but university putting out a cookbook. But the Create Better Health cookbook is centered around farmers markets and locally available produce this time of year. The idea behind this is that you could cook a meal every week, every day of the week, at least one meal, that was comprised entirely of items you can buy locally. Low carbon footprint. Of course, with a lack of shipping around the world, as often happens with produce especially, but also you're supporting local growers. You're buying something that has probably been handled and treated more carefully, less coatings of stuff, preservatives and more. Did you know that? Did you know that? I don't know which produce sections do this and don't. But I'm not surprised. I wasn't exactly shocked when I heard it, but I'm surprised I didn't assume this was the case. Surprised at myself. But sometimes the produce in grocery stores, in the big chain grocery stores, the ones that are found all throughout the state or the region or the Intermountain West or the country, sometimes the produce is sprayed with a preservative. Does that ever cross? Does that put you off, Bill, or are we just?
Well, as long as I can wash it off real good, I don't know. I just assume that that there's pesticides on food
sure.
and stuff you buy.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially fruit. But there are preservatives they put on produce on the shelf so that it's shinier, looks better. So far, at least as far as I know, they're not painting things to make them look more appealing.
Has kind of a weird taste.
It's just those romaine heads and a can of green spray paint.
Yeah, it kind of tastes like the wall.
We're not
like
there.
Our wall that we just painted.
Not there yet. And we all rely on them, and it's nice. It's great to be able to. You forget this. Here's the other side of, buy locally, hit your farmer's market up weekly, that kind of stuff. We know it's healthier. We know it has a smaller carbon footprint. We know it supports local businesses and local economies much more than other types of food purchasing do. But at the same time, there was a time. Before my time, before Bill's time, before probably most of you listening, there was a time when out of season, you just didn't have romaine lettuce. If it wasn't grown at that time of year within 100 miles, you likely weren't buying it. So people's diets changed completely seasonally, unless it could be stored for a long period of time. I remember stories from grandparents about how much squash and squash soup they had in the wintertime because they didn't have the money to do fancy ordering at local grocery stores, which was just starting to become a thing. They were old enough to remember a time before refrigeration was as efficient and effective as it quickly became. In fact, my grandma remembered the ice block refrigeration years. Big ice block in the center of
how they did it back in the old days.
Yeah, a wooden crate on a wagon, big wooden crate on a wagon, full of things, fish, produce, whatever, and a giant ice block in the center of it. And
was it dry ice or was it just regular?
I think it was just regular ice, and they would just restock that ice on their travels and hope they sold everything before it was bad, and then sometimes they'd sell it even when it was bad. So that's the trade-off. That I don't know where the happy middle is. I know that I really appreciate being able to have things like romaine lettuce, or even I bought some radishes in. Man, I think it was February. It was a recipe I wanted to try. It was a salad.
Great on tacos.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a chopped salad, and it required radishes. And I think it's amazing you can buy a radish in February in Utah. But, yeah, there was a time before all of this, that we're, rightfully so, I think, kind of critical of now, the system of food distribution and production, global and nationally, that exists. There was a time when you just couldn't buy. Is that the end of the world? Can't buy a radish in February? No, but it does. Your diet does become very limited here in Utah if you can't get something that isn't grown within 100 miles at that time of year, or can be stored for a lengthy period of time, like a squash. You just don't have it. We don't have to deal with that these days. So there is a pro and a con to all sides of this. But in the warm months, in the growing months, I think one of the coolest things is to be able to go out and buy things that just in many cases days before. There's a little market up in Preston. It's just in somebody's driveway. It's behind the park. And that big school building that they moved. I don't know if you remember that big story about that. They moved the school building from one side of town to the other, to the park. Right, just one block off Main Street. You'll see a canopy and a.
Is that
the
sign. Oneida Academy project, or?
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. It was an old building, and they carefully moved this across town, and now they're almost done restoring it for public access as a historical site. But just across the street from that is this little, again, it's just somebody's driveway, a carport, and it's an honor system. Nobody mans the booth or the checkout desk or anything. There's a box with a little slot in it, and then everything has a price on it. And you put your money in and take the things. There's little bags there you can take. And what I love about that is, talking with my friends on the East Coast, this isn't something they've ever experienced before. In a lot of the larger cities, especially, it's happening more with community gardens and things like that. But for a long time, it was just not a big city thing. If it wasn't at the supermarket or the grocery store or the bodega, you didn't buy it. You didn't eat it. So the idea, I like this. To me, it's very cool to grab something at like this little driveway produce stand in Preston or the farmer's market here in Logan on Saturday. Some neighbors that sometimes have a surplus, especially of summer squashes, they'll put them out. And honor system there too, 50 cents, drop it in a little slot in the metal box. To be able to prepare something and eat it that night that was on the vine that day or the previous day, it's so much better for you if it can be done. So yeah, again, I think it's nice to be able to do these things, but there is a trade-off, and it is also nice to be able to buy certain produce, certain fruits in the wintertime that you just would go without 100 years ago, 75 years ago. So trade-offs. We'll talk about this more. Again, USU's Create Better Health has put out a cookbook centered around farmers market. It is a cookbook where you can prepare at least one meal a day for a week based entirely off of things you can buy at the farmers market every Saturday here in Logan, little produce stands throughout the valley, or even up, as I mentioned, that one in Preston. Cool stuff. So we'll talk with Lacey Jimenez of Create Better Health USU coming up later on. On the other side, joined by a very special guest, Jack Draxler, joining us. We spoke with him several weeks ago about this effort to get people on board with the idea of putting a question on the November ballot regarding open space, a question of should the county bond for open space, to preserve open space, to buy and keep open space in Cache Valley. The Cache County Council weighed in last night, and co-chair of the Open Space Advocacy Committee, Jack Draxler, joins us right after this.
Did you know that the average lifespan of a metal roof is almost 50 years? Compare that to an asphalt shingled roof that's only 15 to 20 years max. So choose metal for your next roof project. Palmer's Metal Mart in Lehigh and Logan is your metal roofing center for projects big and small. How do you know if it's time for a new roof? Are you missing shingles? Water damage in your home? Large amount of asphalt granules in your gutters? Shingles starting to curl upward? If you have these warning signs on your roof, it's time for a new one. With over 20 color finishes to choose from and all the popular styles, you'll love your roof from Palmer's Metal Mart. Save thousands when you install a metal roof from Metal Mart. Our professional staff can help you put together a roof that you can be proud of and know will last for many years to come. Call today. Palmer's Metal Mart in Logan and Lehigh. Online at palmersmetalmart.com. Mention this ad for special pricing. Palmer's Metal Mart, your metal roofing source.
Hi, I'm Hadley Noble, your 2022 Cache County Fair and Rodeo first attendant. Your favorite time of the year is right around the corner. Yes, the Cache County Fair and Rodeo, August 10th through the 13th at 8 o'clock. Get your tickets at the IFA in North Logan, the Cache County Events Center, or online at cachecounty.org/fair. Don't wait, tickets sell out fast, and don't forget, Thursday night is our suicide prevention night, so put on your purple or turquoise to help raise awareness. Please join us in watching trick riding like you've never seen, and Barrel Man of the Year, John Harrison.
So come on out, let's have some fun at the Cache County Fair.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. For several months now, a citizen committee has been meeting and discussing and planning a proposal that would be put to the Cache County Council on bonding for open space. Several weeks ago here in the studio, we spoke with co-chair of the Open Space Advocacy Committee, Jack Draxler, former state lawmaker. And Jack explained to us how this was all planned out and how it would work, and that eventually, once their research and proposal was done, all the I's dotted, T's crossed, they'd present it to the county council. The county council would then vote on whether or not to include this ballot question about bonding for open space, to preserve open space in Cache Valley, on the November ballot. And last night, exactly that happened. Cache County Executive David Zook thanked the county council, said that, following this citizen committee recommendation was important to him, and he was happy to see the council agree and support that. And Zook said also that he wanted to thank everyone involved, the community leaders and citizens who made up this committee. So joining us right now with a reaction to last night's very good news from the Cache County Council's official meeting and vote to approve this question going on the ballot November 8th, 2022, is co-chair of the Open Space Advocacy Committee, Jack Draxler. And Jack, appreciate taking some time for us today. I'm sure you were there last night. Were you nervous? I know the county council had been pretty tight-lipped about where everyone was out on this.
Well, we thanked, thanks for having me on, Jason. We thanked the council members. They've been very open. As I told them yesterday, they've asked all the right questions that they should in behalf of their constituents to make sure that this was a viable proposal. And it's a pretty complicated process. The council has to pass a resolution that by state law and county law has to be worded very specifically and has to be very transparent to the public. And so they allowed us to have a work meeting with them through the course of these discussions, and then yesterday had a few more questions, and when the vote was taken, it passed, and obviously we're very, very, very pleased that it is. And now the hard work begins to really get out there and help inform the public on exactly what it would do and how we would preserve some open space.
This is amazing because it's as we discussed here in the studio, Jack. This is really forward thinking. It is something that a lot of other areas, especially along the Wasatch Front, are trying desperately now to play catch up on this type of thing, realizing they missed opportunities. This is looking 10, 15, 20, 25 years ahead, looking at all the growth that's expected and saying, this open space is part of the Valley's character. But the problem is it doesn't come, it's not just there magically, right? It has to be invested in. And this to me was amazing. I remember when we spoke a few weeks ago, Jack, the committee, you guys did a lot of research, including some surveying, and you found that almost 90% of respondents, when asked, if you could pay $20 additional a year, just $20 a year additional on your property taxes, but it would go into this fund to buy land and keep it for open space in Cache Valley, would you be supportive of that? Almost 90% said yes, absolutely.
Yes, as far as we can tell, there's really strong public support. And that survey was of registered voters. It wasn't a voluntary survey where only people who favor open space were involved.
That's right.
It was a scientific sample of registered voters, and yes, there was a very high percentage. And so the resolution that was passed yesterday places on the ballot in November a $20 million bond that has a 20-year payback. It would affect the average home in Cache County to the tune of $25 a month. We had talked a lot leading up to our discussion and the drafting of the resolution. We thought it was going to be about $31 a year, which is still less than $3 a month for the average home.
Still not bad, right?
But the tax base has broadened, and once these latest numbers were taken, it turns out to be $25 and change for the average home
per year. That's
which again
amazing.
Is just barely over $2 a month. And obviously that's the average home. So if you've got an above average home, it might be a little more than that. If you've got a below average value home, it'll be a little less than that. But we're very excited to get out there and meet with people in in whatever venues they would like to meet in, neighborhood meetings, city council meetings. We're going to try to follow the model maybe that was used when the Water Conservancy District was formed.
Okay.
That there was just great transparency and great outreach to the public, and that's what we're hoping to do too.
This is exciting, and with public meetings, a chance for people to discuss this. That was going to be my next question. What happens next? Of course, there's a technical side of this, right? The ballot language has to be written, and then it's put on the ballot. The committee's already done that type of work. The county said in a press release just today after this vote happened last night, county leadership said, if this is approved by voters in November, the funds would be used to buy easements from willing landowners. Of course, we're not talking eminent domain or anything like that here, but
absolutely, totally voluntary.
They would go to landowners, say, "Look, the county will buy your land that you're selling, and we'll put it in an easement to preserve open space." With a focus on, in the press release, it said scenic vistas, open areas near valley gateways, ways that we can expand the trail system throughout the valley, maintain agricultural land and waterways. And, of course, the environment and wildlife habitat would be a consideration. So for voters out there, they'll have a chance to learn more about this in the coming months. But I know one big question that people probably have, if this is going to be on the ballot in November, they'll be asked to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. At $25 per year additional on your property taxes, will the county council then set up, like you said, comparing it to the Water Conservancy District? As I understand it, they'll set up sort of a committee like that, a board, and that board will go about, preserving the open space, literally.
Well, yes, it'll operate very similar to the RAPS committee, the RAPS tax, where a good representation of people from throughout the county will sit on a committee. People can come to the committee and apply and say, "Hey, I've got a strip of land right at the mouth of Sardine Canyon. I'd love to see it remain open. Can we work something out?" Or the committee could go out to landowners and ask them if they would be interested. It would totally be voluntary, and the committee then would recommend certain properties to be acquired or uses of the fund, the bond fund, and the final say would be the county council. They would then take recommendations from that committee and decide if they agreed or not with what the committee had put forward.
Fascinating stuff. And again, coming after months of work by this Open Space Advocacy Committee, which our guest, Jack Draxler, co-chaired alongside Eric Eliasson, Stephen Daniels, members of the community, concerned citizens, community leaders, business leaders. It was a big group. They worked for months collecting data, surveying, and then presented this all to the county council. Last night, the county council gave it a thumbs up. They approved this open space bond ballot question. It will be on your November 8th ballot, and residents of the Valley, registered voters, will be asked a simple question: would you be willing to pay between $20 and $25 additional per year on your property taxes in order to give the county $20 million bond flexibility to buy easements, preserve open space, expand trail and wildlife habitat areas, to keep Cache Valley as much Cache Valley as we can as all this growth comes steamrolling in.
I think the pace of growth has really come home to folks. Nobody on this committee is anti-growth.
Sure.
Nobody on this committee is anti-affordable housing or any other kind of housing. But everybody on this committee felt, and we had businessmen, developers, realtors, environmental. We had everybody represented, and we all said it can be done in a cooperative way.
Sure.
And we can have growth, and we can preserve open space. And one of the questions, Jason, that came up last night was trails and trail connectivity. That's a problem we have right now.
Sure.
Is that we have segments of trails around the valley, but it would really be nice if we could connect them together. again, we'll see if that's feasible. And if it is, that's one of the things that could be done with this bond. But we don't want all of the funds to go to one kind of open space. We don't want it all to go to trails. We don't want it to all go to waterways. We want to try to have an impact on all those kinds of open space that you just mentioned.
That is honestly so encouraging to hear. And again, for residents out there, for all of us out there, the fact that Cache County is looking this far ahead, planning this far ahead at this point, puts us in such a better situation than many areas along the Wasatch Front where the growth just kind of was there suddenly, and now they're trying to work around that. It gives us an opportunity to think about it ahead of time. Jack, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show, and I look forward to speaking soon again. In fact, maybe we can put together some kind of public hearing-style event for an hour here on the show. And of course, for listeners, there will be announcements about public events and opportunities to ask questions and more. Jack?
Yes, and one of the requirements of the resolution is there must be a formal public hearing held by the county. So there will be one. We'll get the date of that out so that folks can participate in that. And the wonderful thing is these funds can be multiplied several times over by matching funds from state, federal, and private sources. We're confident that we can perhaps even double the funds with those kind of matches.
Very nice.
So we're excited. And, the pace of growth has just help people to realize now may be the time we should act.
Sure. Trying to find it after the fact is a lot harder and a lot more expensive, right?
Absolutely.
I know you know that from your experience all those years as a state lawmaker. The more you can do in advance, the cheaper it is and the better you can plan it. So
for sure.
I'm excited to see this, and congratulations, Jack, to you, the other co-chairs, and all members of the committee. You did your research, you did your homework, you presented to the county council, and for listeners, again, last night the county council gave it a thumbs up. This will be on the November 8th ballot this fall, a question for residents of the Valley on an additional $25-ish per year on your property taxes would give the county the flexibility of a $20 million bond, a fund that would be used to purchase land from willing sellers to preserve open space in Cache Valley. It's a fascinating thing to watch, and I'm excited to see what goes forward. Public hearings coming up, public meetings, and more. We'll invite everyone here on the show as well to get their questions together. And our guest again, co-chair of the Open Space Advocacy Committee, after a big success last night, getting the approval from the Cache County Council on this ballot question for this November ballot, co-chair Jack Draxler. And Jack, appreciate taking the time for us today, and we'll speak again soon if you don't mind.
You bet. And I should mention the other co-chairs, Eric Elison and Steve Daniels. You mentioned them, but they have been every bit as instrumental in this as I have, and have been, or more so. And really, everybody who's participated in this, sort of a de facto committee that just started getting together months ago and meeting every Thursday at noon.
Wow.
And trying to get something done. And so my thanks to everyone who's been involved.
Well, and our thanks to all of you for doing the work. I know a lot of work went into this. I know that convincing the county council was not an easy thing, but you did it. And now voters will get a chance to weigh in on this. And I think it's amazing that it's happening. So Jack Draxler, again, one of the co-chairs of the Open Space Advocacy Committee, after last night's approval by the Cache County Council, placing this question on the November 8th ballot. One to watch for sure. And as Jack said, public meetings are planned. There will be opportunities for you to ask questions of the county, get everything out there before you're asked to cast the ballot as they go out this November. Excited to see this happen. And Jack, once again, thank you for taking the time for us today. And I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about soon.
You bet. Thanks to you and Bill. You both have a superb day.
You as well, and again, thank you for your time. And for listeners, thank you for your time as well. Please stay tuned. More of For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:39, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. A head-on collision earlier today sent 2 people to the hospital with severe injuries. The crash was reported at 6:22 a.m. at 2800 West SR 13 east of Corinne. According to Utah Highway Patrol troopers, a 2013 Toyota Corolla was traveling east and being driven by a 34-year-old Brigham City woman. She reportedly drove into the opposite lane of travel, the westbound lane, and smashed into the front of a 2021 Ford Mustang driven by a 41-year-old Brigham City man. Both drivers had to be extricated from their vehicles by emergency crews. The woman was flown from the scene by medical helicopter to an area hospital with very serious injuries. The man was also transported to the hospital by ambulance with serious injuries as well. Troopers closed a portion of SR 13 in both directions for about 2 hours while crews cleared and investigated the crash. U.S. officials say a British man flying from London to L.A. grabbed a passenger in front of him by the throat, tried to hit him and bite him, prompting the diversion of the flight to Utah. Authorities say William Stephen Hayes was arrested after the Virgin Atlantic flight landed Tuesday in Salt Lake City. Federal prosecutors today charged him with assault and interfering with the flight crew. Officials say witnesses that after crew members restrained and handcuffed Hayes, he still tried to fight with them. No attorney who could comment on Hayes' behalf was listed in the charging documents. And the U.S. Department of Energy has selected Idaho for a proposed nuclear test reactor that would dramatically reduce the time needed to develop nuclear fuels and components for a new generation of nuclear reactors that could help reduce global warming. The Energy Department today said it selected its 890 square mile site in eastern Idaho that includes the Idaho National Laboratory to build the Versatile Test Reactor, or VTR. The VTR is a sodium-cooled fast test reactor that would be the first fast spectrum test reactor to operate in the U.S. in nearly 3 decades. Plans call for the test reactor to be running by the end of 2026. KBNU News Time is 4:42.
U&I Furniture wants to wish you a happy and safe Independence Day, 4th of July, and Pioneer Day, July 24th. Both holidays are good reminders of our freedoms and our heritage. During this time, U&I features their American-made brand names. Chairs by Southern Motion, Best, Franklin, and Lane, Speed Queen appliances and therapeutic mattresses, and Legend brand TV consoles and entertainment centers. Enjoy your summer. And when you're ready for great name furniture and appliances, visit the place where there's always a better buy. U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
KVNU weather, partly cloudy tonight, overnight low in the upper 50s and sunshine, hot temperatures mid-90s on Thursday, mid-90s on Friday. It's been to 93. It's 90 degrees right now at KVNU. Northern Steel Buildings. Contact their Cache Valley team to protect what's yours. Their website, northernsteelbuilding.com. Value from concept to construction. Call 435-677-7300. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. The Federal Reserve raised rates by 75 basis points today, as expected. Stocks moved sharply higher after the announcement, with very little surprise in the announcement or press conference. The Federal Reserve is on a mission to bring inflation down from recent highs to a level closer to its long-term 2% target. Chair Powell does not believe the U.S. is in a recession, with several components of the economy, such as the labor market, still in healthy shape. Powell also stated that he still sees a scenario in which inflation falls closer to the long-term target without the economy entering into a recession. A plethora of measures are pointing to inflationary levels that have already peaked. Home buying activity, builder sentiment, consumer confidence, demand for gasoline, and freight transportation costs have all seen a recent fall as consumers pull back on spending amid higher prices. The price of oil in July has also been significantly lower than June. So with falling commodity prices and softening consumer demand, we think inflation has peaked or is very near to a peak and will moderate throughout the second half of the year. The rate at which inflation falls will be important and will largely dictate future Fed rate hikes. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 434 points at 32,196. The NASDAQ closed at 470 points at 12,032. The S&P 500 closed up 102 points at 4,023. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 2.79% higher by 0.01 percentage points. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
With rising gas prices, there's never been a better time than now to go electric. Come to Murdoch Volkswagen and see what all the hype is about when you test drive the new 2022 ID4. With a range of just under 300 miles, the ID4 has all the latest technology, including the digital dash, remote access, adaptive cruise, and blind spot monitoring. Come in and take a test drive and reserve your brand new electric ID4 today. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 7/31/22.
Believe it or not, a high-quality furnace air filter will reduce the amount of dust and pollen carelessly floating around in your home. John at the Duck Hunter says, always buy a higher quality air filter. If you can see through a filter, you probably should pass on it. If you're not sure about which furnace air filter to buy, give John a call. He only carries the highest quality, which will reduce the dust and pollen in your home. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down. Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Controversy. I don't know if that's a good word anymore. Some people are upset, and I don't blame them. I get the argument on that. it's going to be something that is debated for a while now. Let's put it that way. I don't let me back up. This is the first time. This is the first time that I can honestly say I don't understand some of the politics. Yeah, normally, you can look at some of the politicking that's happening. By that, I mean, when you see an elected official and they're making a decision, pretending it's a principle, but they're obviously just sort of pandering to a certain position or phrase, even sometimes, that's popular within their party. And don't anyone pretend, this is one of my pet peeves. I hear it from Democrats, I hear it from Republicans alike. My party doesn't do that. Your party does that. There are members of your party right now, I don't care which party it is, even if it's one of those fringe third parties that don't take themselves seriously but want us to. Talking to you, Green Party, Libertarian Party. It happened. It's a human thing. It's an opportunist thing. And politics, like every profession, like every hobby, attracts opportunists. People who are, they maybe really are there for good reasons, but at the same time, their major goal is to promote and propel themselves into higher office, into higher salaries, into promotions at work. We all know those people. They exist everywhere. And politics, I don't think, is any worse. It's definitely not any better than any other walk of life. And so that has always existed. But there's something weird happening right now where some of the politicking that you should, if you're not cynical but practical, expect to happen around you. Not expect and accept. I'm not saying let it go and just say, it's the way things are. It doesn't have to be. And we can push back against this kind of thing when it gets out of control. And it has before, even here in Utah. But it should be expected to some extent. You're going to have the occasional spotlight chaser, a Jason Chaffetz, who is there obviously just to promote his own career and himself and his brand more than anything else. It's part of humans being involved in anything as a group, right? Today's politicking is weird, though, to me, because you can usually see where something originated and why. You see the spotlight chasers jumping on the bandwagon, and that's usually your first indication that it's become a bandwagon. And then you can usually think it through and say, okay, I might not agree with this. I might think this is really bad direction to go in, but I can see why others support it or are excited about it. I get it. It's part of that respecting other viewpoints and other experiences thing, I think. And a lot of this I learned from Paul Miro when he would spend a lot of time here in the studio. He and I are on basically opposite ends of the political spectrum, but I could always understand why Paul came to the conclusions he did, and he could always understand the same about me. Today, it's just weird. Sometimes. So, with that in mind, here's what everyone's upset about. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes joined 19 other Republican Attorney Generals signing on to a lawsuit against the Biden administration. That in and of itself should not be surprising. And it also, I get our partisan blinders sometimes upset us about things like this, but I think it's healthy that when there's a Democrat in the White House, you have red states pushing back either through lawsuits or other challenges. I think when there's a Republican in the White House and you have blue states pushing back and challenging policy in various ways, I think that's healthy. I think that's by design. I think some things are actually resolved that way most of the time. Other times, it's just politicking. This one that Sean Reyes has signed on to, I'm calling just politicking. But what has people upset is worth highlighting because, again, it goes back to this idea. I want to tell everyone right now, get a grip. Get a grip. And that's my message to Utah's Attorney General as well. So the Biden administration put out some rules on school lunches. This is a privilege of the administration. It's an executive action that is conducted through the Department of Education. Nothing new about this, nothing nefarious about this. And when you hear what the executive action was, you should be able to say, well, of course, we should be doing that. That should be a rule. And then your next question should be, why is the Utah Attorney General signing on to a lawsuit against it? The rule was basically this, very simple. There's a school lunch program, right? There should be. I actually believe the school lunch program should be beefed up. I think if you don't have a problem with kids going hungry, which we know actually defeats the purpose of being in a classroom all day in the first place, if you're hungry, you can't think, your memory doesn't work, you don't learn as well. If you are upset at kids getting fed at school, you need to have a talk with yourself. And yes, at taxpayer expense. That should be something we all agree should be an option for kids to eat while learning. Yes, we should pay for that. And I don't find any argument against that reasonable. The rule was from the Biden administration. The Department of Education will have a new rule on the books that says you can't discriminate against a student based on their race, maybe you have a high school student who is LGBTQ plus and is out and open about it. Maybe you have a transgender student in a school. You can't discriminate against them when it comes to school lunches based on any of that. No one should be upset about this. The Attorney General has signed on with 19 other Republican Attorney Generals to sue the Biden administration, saying that this is a states' rights issue, which is another way of saying the states should have the right to discriminate or make laws that discriminate against children in schools for some reason. Get a grip, everyone. There is nothing, I don't care what your politics are, that is inhumane. We'll be back right after this.
Are you a good listener? Has anyone ever accused you of being a problem solver? Someone who likes to help others have success? If so, the Cache Valley Media Group would like to talk to you. Have you ever posted something on social media that had all your friends and family laughing? Have you ever fought off a bear? If so, let's talk. Not necessarily about bears. We just think it would be a cool story. Here at the Cache Valley Media Group, we have a ton of fun helping businesses grow, and we could use some more help. So if you or someone you know has marketing and advertising experience or any of the previously mentioned skills, please send your resume to sales@cvradio.com. That's sales@cvradio.com. Or drop it off at our office, Monday through Friday between 8 and 5. The Cache Valley Media Group is an equal opportunity employer and scared of bears.
Cowboy up in a new Ram truck. That's right, it's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
This is the time of year that West Motor becomes famous for deals on trucks. And if we don't have the exact setup that you want, come in and we'll help you build your truck exactly how you want it. Enjoy a lifetime powertrain warranty and our highly coveted West Motor Rodeo jackets.
And wow, they look sharp.
We'll even throw in a couple free tickets to the famous Preston Night Rodeo.
Now that's how the West was won. WestMotorCompany.com.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
Guess which energy source is truly the cleanest for the environment, is affordable, abundant, and is ready right now to do what all the other clean energy sources hope to do someday? It's propane. Yes, propane. To learn more about what propane can do for you, check out the State of Energy right here, Saturday mornings at 6:30. Also, the propane industry is set to grow by $50 billion over the next 5 years. Go to findapropanejob.com.
That's it for hour one of today's show. Thanks again to our guest, Jack Draxler. Listeners, for humoring me, my little rant there. I don't care. I'll say it again. I don't care what your politics are. If you find a reason to justify denying a child food, whether it's this silly lawsuit over the school lunch rule or whatever, you need to have a talk with yourself. And to everyone out there in our political system right now, including our Attorney General who just signed on to this lawsuit, I think just for political reasons, for street cred, get a grip. We should all be far more... When is it that the kids repeatedly are more mature than the rest of us? Our politics just kind of ramming that point home again and again and again the last few years. Whew. Get a grip. Hour 2 of today's show kicks off with Lacey Jimenez of USU's Create Better Health program.